All right, so a lot of these things are things I wanted to know myself about your business, and I figured if I did, other people might as well. So, we call this it's Repaint the Wall. Tell me about Repaint the Wall. Where did that name come from?
Okay, that's a great story, actually.
Awesome.
So we were trying to name this company, and I don't even know. We were struggling to name the company, and finally I had made a Slack channel on our we had a Slack team.
Sure.
And I just made a Slack channel. I was like, all right, name the company, and we just had a group conversation through Slack of what we were going to name this company. And Ronald, who is like our lead videographer, he was like, repaint the wall, repaint the wall, repaint the wall. And I'm like, dude, what the heck are you talking about? Repaint the wall. I have no idea what you're talking about. And he was like, from the night where we were drunk in the office talking to Mike. So basically the conversation started from Ronald, my general manager at the time, Michael Dees, he's the COE, the chief of everything at New Scooters for Less now. He's who took my place. And then me, and I guess one Friday night we were just sharing stories of the past, right? And Mike proceeded to tell him this story, which was it's really just a character defining story for myself.
Okay.
And it essentially, the name comes from back in 2007 when I was moving out of our first dealership. So I was moving the New Scooters for Less dealership for the first time. There was this transitional hallway. It was a little hallway between the warehouse and between the office space. And for whatever reason, us kids at 21 years old when we started this business had painted this room black. Okay. The ceiling was black, the walls were black, the floor was even black, everything was black. And when I moved out, I had bought all the paint and everything necessary to repaint this room.
Yeah.
And everybody, like friends, family, everybody was just kind of like, what are you doing? Like the amount of money you're gonna pay in paint and in your time, like just losing the security deposit would cost you less.
Yeah.
Like why would you spend all this money to repaint this room? And I was just like, this guy, to me, this landlord had trusted me with his property, and I had signed an agreement saying that we were going to return everything the way we had found it, and so I was going to repaint the wall.
Okay.
I was going to repaint this room and change it back, and for whatever reason, that story has stuck with my general manager, now the CEO. That story has stuck with Mike, and he shared that story with a lot of our different team members throughout the years, and so when it came time to name the company, it was like Repaint the Wall. It was a cool character defining moment that happened in my early career that has had ripple effects for years, and who knows how many more ripple effects it'll have.
Tell me about the ripple effects.
I mean, just that in itself, the fact that it stuck with Mike for that long, to the point where he feels it's a story to share with others. I think it just shows something about just the integrity and just that character that I have, that I'm always going to leave, and that's why it made sense as a branding company too, is like, we're going to leave things better than the way we found them. When you think about repainting walls, I mean, you're literally, that's what we're doing. We're really, in a way, is like rebranding a lot of these companies, helping them find their purpose, helping them fulfill their purpose. These are the things that we're involved in. So the name just kind of fit, and so we're like, all right, that's it, Repaint the Wall.
Awesome. Yeah, I like that. Cool. Okay, that was my burning question. Another burning question is, like, you're talking about businesses and the people you serve. So tell me about who you want to serve and how you'd like to help them.
It's funny because we've had, at first it was kind of like, all right, who needs our help? And we were trying to really narrow that down and figure that out. But over the last few months, we've really figured out who our perfect client is. And our perfect client it's a customer that has money to invest into marketing and media. So they're not, I say not a startup because I feel like startups just don't have the money, but if they are a startup, then they need to have money to invest into marketing and media.
Yeah.
And then they need to be very driven to grow. Because I think one of the unique aspects of what we do is we're gonna do a lot of things to build a person's brand, to build the company's brand, to drive traffic, drive leads. We're gonna do all these things, but the one thing I've discovered is that if that business or that personal brand is not our partner in it, it's not gonna work.
Right.
So if we're, for example, driving traffic or driving leads to a company, and people are messaging that company on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever platforms they're using, and that company is not, responding to those direct messages, then they're not a perfect partner for us.
Right.
And I know that if they're driven to grow, then they're gonna be on it. They're gonna be like, I gotta get that question answered. I gotta get that question answered. And it's fine. There's a lot of companies out there that sustain, like, they just need to get to right here. They just need to coast. They're not really looking to take their business up a whole level.
Yeah.
But for us, we want those companies that are driven to grow.
Okay. Yeah, so what exactly, one of the things you mentioned in one of your previous videos is you do not see yourself as a traditional marketing firm. Okay, so how are you different? What do you do that's different?
I think when people think of media agency, they think of building websites, doing a lot of SEO work, buying ads on TV, buying ads on radio, negotiating that ad spend, for example. I think that those are very traditional media types, and there's nothing like there's a place for those. But for us, we're completely different in that, and we don't do any of that.
Yeah.
We focus strictly on social media, video, and personal branding. Those are really our three pillars, at least right now. It's not to say that they won't change, but those are our three areas of focus. And I just believe that if we can build out if I can know what that business is or that personal brand's goal is, and I can reverse engineer that and create a custom plan to help them accomplish that goal, that I'm able to do that through video, through social media, and through building one's personal brand. Now, I still believe that people, at least in 2019, need websites. So if we have a client that needs a website, then I'm going to refer them to one of the other agencies. My goal is to, one, be a resource. My goal is to really be a resource to the other agencies. I want to specialize in these areas to where they'll want to reach out to us for the social media and for the personal branding and for the video part. And likewise, I'd like to set up partnerships with them to where we can, have them make our websites. I have such great relationships with the other agencies in town.
Yeah.
Like they're all friends of mine, every single one of them. So, but that's why we've really kind of marketed ourselves as the digital media agency. And we say "un" with the UN because it's all the words started with "un." It was very, very unique, unorthodox, untraditional. Those were some keywords that really described, the way we do things. And so that's why we started marketing ourselves as the digital media agency.
Cool. So what would a typical engagement with you be like? Say, I was Joe Entrepreneur or Jane Entrepreneur, and I went in and I said, Collin, I need lots of web traffic. I need all this cool stuff to happen.
Yeah, I mean, first I'm just really gonna start diving into their goals. What is it that they're trying to accomplish in their life? Like, what does that look like? What is their ultimate vision? And then what's that 1 year stepping stone that's going to get them there? And if I know what that 1 year stepping stone is, I can typically create a 12-month plan that's going to consist of the video, social media, and personal branding elements that are going to help them accomplish that goal.
Okay.
And it's 100% custom to that business or that personal brand. I don't think I have anything right now that is, we don't have any packages, we don't have anything that's specific where you can like buy this package. You know, it's just everything is completely custom to helping that company or that brand or that person accomplish their goal.
All right, cool. So you're dealing mostly with companies right now and stuff?
Mainly, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I think you've answered most of the questions about that. I might circle around
But a
this one later.
huge differentiator though, real quick,
Yeah, sure.
is definitely the personal branding aspect. So where a lot of people are out to, you know, there's a lot of agencies focus on helping businesses fulfill their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I want to help people, like an individual person. For example, we have a client who is doing big things in the construction industry, and we don't build his company as much as we build him. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is, and I this is why I tell everybody this when it comes to personal branding, is that I know that when I build up Collin Austin, for example, when I'm building my brand, New Scooters for Less benefits, Repaint the Wall benefits, the WHOA GNV Podcast benefits. You know, if I do anything that I do in terms of speaking engagements, that kind of stuff, like it all comes with my brand. So I'm really heavy on trying to teach others the importance of building a personal brand. And I wouldn't be surprised if long term this either became a personal branding agency, or we had, you know, or it was the primary focus. Okay. Because I just love telling, for example, I love telling the CEO story of why they got into the business and what it means to them and what they're trying to accomplish. I love that story versus trying to promote their scooters and sell scooters. Does that make sense? When I share Collin Austin's, you know, startup story, why he got into this, his purpose for doing this, I know that sells scooters, and that's way more fun than making a promo video to sell scooters. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a whole bunch of sense.